You both have personal stories, and you're not just, you didn't write Mastering Diabetes to make a quick buck. You have a tie to this, correct?
Right.
Robbie, what's your
Yeah.
tie?
So, I mean, we're both living with type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed when I was 12, just about to turn 13. So that was in 2000. So I've been living with it for over 20 years now. And my older brother was actually diagnosed prior to me. So I ended up self-diagnosing myself. I told my mom, look, I'm thirsty all the time. I'm going to the bathroom all the time. I think I have diabetes, just like Steve. She said, no, don't be silly. You don't have diabetes. I said, okay, fine. Eventually, she was out of town. She called to check in and say, hey, like, what's going on? Like, well, I couldn't sleep last night. I'm cramping. She said, okay, go upstairs, use your brother's blood glucose meter and test yourself. I was well over 400. You're supposed to be somewhere between 70 and 120. And my brother said, yep, you have type 1 diabetes. Pack your bag. You're going to be in the hospital for a few nights. I said, okay. And we go to the doctor, the general doctor. They run some tests. Then they send me to the hospital. And I just remember my dad coming back from their trip at that point and saying, look, it's just an inconvenience. You can still have all your dreams come true and live a great life. So just take care of yourself. And at that point, my family was following the standard American diet, and we were living in Minnesota. They wanted to make sure I had the best medical care you can possibly have. So we went to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. Wow. And I had a whole team there. I had an endocrinologist, I had a nutritionist, I had a psychologist. Not a single person ever said anything about using nutrition to, number one, maximize my insulin sensitivity, and number two, reduce my long-term chronic disease risk, which is higher living with any form of diabetes. So I continued to just follow their guidance, follow the standard American diet. Their number one thing was just keep being yourself. You know, just we want you to be normal, be like your friends, just inject enough insulin. That's all you got to do. That was the core teaching point. There was totally the typical food pyramid. You know, have a serving of fruit, have all the variety of these foods. And my fruit at that time was mandarin oranges. My mom would give me a cup. It was like high fructose corn syrup. We had to have that with my dinner. She was just following the directions that she was given from the Mayo Clinic.
Right.
And so that was the beginning of life with type 1 diabetes. And I continued to learn more and more on my own. And long story short, I was in high school. I was at Barnes & Noble looking for some Spark Notes, as you do as a high school student. And there's this book called Kevin Trudeau's Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About. Okay, I'm sure somebody listening knows about this guy, knows about the infomercials.
There might be one person. Yeah, I think there's one person then.
I'm not recommending this book. That guy went to jail. There was some deception with his work. But the bottom line is that book planted a seed in my mind that maybe it's possible to reverse type 1 diabetes if I do anything and everything I can possibly think of to allow my body to regenerate. That's the mission. That's how I got into this whole thing. It's funny, in the book writing process, you know, Cyrus and I have our stories in there. I was titled The Seeker. I think Cyrus is like the PhD nerd or something. But what's your exact title?
Yeah, I think so. No, I was looking, actually, I have the book right here. I was looking at, Cyrus, you're something about the nerd.
Yeah, like the biology super nerd or something.
Yeah, we're gonna figure that out before the show's over. But anyways, mine was The Seeker, and that's true for me. Like, I've always been like a truth seeker, just like trying to figure this out, get to the bottom of it. And through this journey, I don't have a solution to reversing type 1 diabetes. Just like Cyrus was saying earlier, we don't have that solution. Yeah. But along the way, I learned a lot. And I tried many different approaches. I tried a Weston A. Price Foundation diet, where I'm eating like grass-fed beef. I'm eating raw like milk. You have to go to the farmer's market. This was in Sarasota, Florida, at Jessica's stand. I would go and buy milk for cats because they couldn't sell milk for humans. And that was the raw milk that I was consuming. Again, just following the Weston A. Price guidelines. Everything I do, man, I do it to a T, Joey.
I can see that with your toes too.
See, there you go.
Brought it back. I'm going to say it at least one more time during this podcast. You don't know when it's coming. All right, carry on.
It's classic.
Keep you on your toes.
Yeah. Good one, Cyrus.
Ooh, nice.
So anyways, I did that. And then again, so everything I was doing is, okay, what can I do to give my body the most, nutrition? Like, what's the best nutrition for my body to begin healing itself? And like, let's regenerate some beta cells. Like, why not? I wish there was a simple answer to that question, but that's for another podcast. Yeah. So I keep on trying new things, end up trying a plant-based ketogenic diet. So this is where I'm eating lots of nuts and seeds, lots of celery dipped in almond butter. I was loving cashews, plenty of oil on salads, but really keeping that carbohydrate content very low, no more than 30 grams of carbohydrate per day of net carbohydrate there. So you could have the fiber. You can go up to like, 90 grams if you're including fiber. But the point is, I did that diet and I experienced, and we'll talk about this in detail today because I think it's really important, but I personally experienced my total insulin intake went down. The total number of quantity of insulin I had to inject went down. All right. And my mindset at the time was, okay, I'm trying to reverse type 1 diabetes. My goal is to take less and less insulin until I get to a point where I'm not taking any. That's my goal as this type 1 reversal process. Yeah. And that would make sense. That would be exciting if you knew that simultaneously your pancreas was beginning to produce more of its own insulin. But that wasn't the case. Okay. So I'm literally avoiding carbohydrate rich foods to try and reduce my insulin, thinking I'm improving my health. But what I know now is that I was eating myself into a state of glucose intolerance, eating myself into a state of insulin resistance. So if you do the math, it would take 1 unit of insulin for every 1 gram of carbohydrate consumed. That was my ratio. And now I switched to a low fat, plant-based whole food diet. I'm eating well over 700 grams of carbohydrate per day. I'm injecting a physiologically normal amount of insulin, about 27 units per day. And now my glucose to insulin ratio is 10-1. So that is a 900% improvement in insulin sensitivity. And I'm, again, using a physiologically normal amount of insulin. So through this process of seeing my insulin sensitivity improve, I had plantar fasciitis, talking about feet here, Joey. That went away, changing my diet.
I didn't hit that one. It was on a tee. I let that go.
Okay. I had really terrible cystic acne. That was frustrating. I had chronic allergies. I took Nasonex, Claritin D year round, and all that stuff went away when I switched my diet. Wow. So to me, it's been a lot of fun to be able to eat foods that I love. I love eating fruit. I love being active. And again, to use a physiologically normal amount of insulin. For us living with type 1 diabetes, we are these amazing test subjects for insulin sensitivity. We monitor our blood glucose on a regular basis. We know exactly how much insulin we're using, and we're monitoring our carbohydrate intake. Those 3 pieces of information can really help us paint a picture of insulin sensitivity on a meal by meal basis. Wow. You don't know how much insulin your pancreas is producing. You can test your blood glucose, you can count your carbohydrates, but there's no way for you to truly quantify that insulin sensitivity on a meal by meal basis. So that's been fun for us personally. It's been fun for all the clients we're working with. And it's just been, it's been a great journey to really teach people that, look, you can eat carbohydrate rich foods living with any form of diabetes. And the impact is a heck of a lot better health. And you can have a lot of fun with it.